investigations. Okay, if you look up the name Gonzalez, if you look up the name Balzler and Krigsman, you will see that the work has been replicated independently by other doctors around the world. They fail to mention that in these allegations, and Deere has failed to mention that at any time. Is that honest?
Deere also says that patients were recruited through anti-MMR campaigners and that your study was commissioned and funded for planned litigation. You did have a lawsuit against manufacturers of the MMR vaccine, didn't you? I mean, didn't you have a financial conflict of interest?
If I could just answer, Anderson, the paper that was published in The Lancet received not 1 cent of funding from lawyers or litigants.
Sir, did you not have a financial interest, though? Did you disclose that you were being paid by a law firm?
I disclosed in the relevant paper that I was an expert in MMR vaccine litigation, yes.
You didn't disclose you were being paid, though, for a possible lawsuit against the vaccine makers, that you were developing a patent for an alternate vaccine.
The purpose of this paper was nothing to do with the litigation. These children were seen on the basis of their clinical symptoms for their clinical need, and they were seen by expert clinicians and their disease diagnosed by them, not by me.
Sir, though, you're attacking the motives of journalists, though, and others who oppose you. And yet you yourself have a financial stake in the research that you were doing.
No, I didn't. The grant that was given was not given to me. It was given to the medical school to conduct a research program, not to me personally.
If your research was not a fraud, if your research was valid, why have 10 of your co-authors all retracted the paper's interpretations back in 2004?
Because I'm afraid that the pressure has been put on them to do so. And people get very, very frightened. You're dealing with some very powerful interests here. And I'm afraid the reason that they are concerned, and let me just put this to you very clearly, the reason they are concerned is because a whistleblower came to me and gave me evidence that the British government had indemnified the vaccine manufacturers for the introduction of an MMR vaccine that they knew to be unsafe and which had been withdrawn in Canada at the time. It was withdrawn 4 years later in the UK, and many children were damaged.
Sir, you've been stripped of your clinical and academic credentials. You're no longer a doctor. Your medical license has been taken away, correct?
Oh, that is incorrect. I am still a doctor. You cannot take away my degree. They have taken away my license to practice in the UK. That is irrelevant. This is part of a systematic process to prevent valid vaccine safety research. I'm not going to go away. These children are real. The experts that are here at this meeting know these children are real. They're growing in number. The experts are growing in number, and I'm afraid the manufacturers and the government are very, very frightened about what is happening.
Sir, what's also growing in number is the number of children who have died because they haven't been vaccinated. Do you feel any sense of responsibility for that?
I have never said not vaccinate. I have suggested that children have the option of single vaccines, and 6 months after I made that recommendation, the option of single vaccines was withdrawn by the British government in the UK. They are wholly reprehensible in that act. They took away the option from parents of single vaccine.
I want to bring in Dr. Sanjay Gupta because I know he has just a few questions for you as well.
When you're trying to draw this link, Dr. Wakefield, between vaccines and autism, one of the things that seems to be in question here is the timeline. And I think I have a sense of what you were writing in the Lancet paper, but 2 of the patients at least that we looked at ourselves extensively from this journal said that one of the children had symptoms that you called autism actually before the vaccine was ever given. And another child did not develop any symptoms until 6 months after the vaccine was given. Why were they included in your study? Did they support your theory?
Please understand that the reports of the Vaccine Association came from parents. We were there to study these children and to examine their symptoms. My colleagues investigated them according to clinical need. The purpose of the study was not to look at MMR vaccination. That was irrelevant. Whether the parents cited vaccination was the cause or not, in their opinion. They had bowel disease. They had bowel symptoms. No one had taken those seriously, and that is why they were there. They were not there for litigation, and they were not there because they had made an association or not with MMR vaccine. It just so happened that they had made an association in many cases, and those were faithfully reported, and those have been grossly distorted by Brian Deere.
Well, I mean, he clearly states, again, based on interviews with parents, which you say he did not have, but based on what he says he had these interviews with parents, these children had symptoms ahead of time. But with regard to the bowel disease, there were also tests done of these children's bowels. In certain cases, you said that they had obvious evidence of inflammatory bowel disease, but none of the hospital records on several of those patients, those 12 patients, actually confirm that. How does that work for you?
Dr. Gupta, you will understand this, so let me make it absolutely clear. What we did was to reevaluate the biopsies because there was disagreement between various people. So an expert pathologist was brought in to review the biopsies blinded. And this is in his statement to the GMC. He made the diagnosis, not me. And he, the professor of pathology, reviewed the biopsies without knowing whom they came from. And he was the one who made the final diagnosis that is described in the paper, and that is the final analysis that was put into the paper about the children's bowel disease. It was not made by me, and it was not made based on routine reporting because of disagreement between those making the reports. And that is clearly stated. It was clearly stated at the GMC, and if Brian Deere has not told you that, then again, he is guilty of leaving out salient facts which have distorted the truth.
Yeah, Dr. Wakefield, I mean, I just want to ask one more thing. I mean, since 1998, you've obviously been dealing with this, but these charges that are a big deal in the world of science, that you paid patients, that you did not randomize them, meaning you selected patients that you thought would be better for your study, and now the most damning evidence of all, that perhaps these numbers, the dates were all fabricated to sort of make a case. Did you have some sort of preconceived notion of a link between the vaccine, MMR, and autism before you conducted this study?
Absolutely not. Dr. Gupta, please, I urge you, go and read my book. I'll send you a copy. I'm not trying to promote my book. I'm not trying to make money. Take the book and read it and understand the truth. You will understand it. Many people don't. The parents understand it. They get it because they've lived it. Okay? And the claims to whether the vaccine caused their children harm or not came from the parents, not me. I didn't have a preconceived notion about this at all. I hadn't heard of autism since medical school. And this was a clinical examination of children on the merits of their clinical problems by the best people in the world, the best clinical experts in pediatric gastroenterology in the world. And they came to the diagnosis, not me. Well, and if Brian Deere thinks that he can pit his own expertise against some of the best people in the world, well, good luck to him. But please, I urge you, and I urge your readers and your viewers to read the book, because then you will understand the truth and how it has been distorted in this way.
Andrew Wakefield, I appreciate you being on the program. Thank you very much.